Alright guys, Chatterbox Reviews, coming at you guys with my review for the Deuce, Season 2, Episode 1. Alright, so we are back for Season 2 of The Deuce. I believe it's actually been exactly a year. I think they lined it up so it would be exactly a year to the day, I believe, between seasons here. But anyway, so yeah, I'm really excited for this season. I think it's going to be good. Obviously, we have a time skip, right, in between the Season 1 and Season 2 now. And so that's definitely going to play a huge part in this season. And then they've talked about for a season, I think they want to do 3 seasons or 4 seasons. And so then the next season, there'll be another time skip. I'm not sure if it'll be as big as this one because I believe Season 1 was 71 and 72. I could be wrong, though. Yeah, I think it was 72. I could be wrong, though. But I think in terms of time, I think we're supposed to believe about 2 maybe to 4 years have passed since Season 1. And I don't know, in some of the relationships and some of the stuff they showed us in this episode, it didn't seem like 2 years had passed. So I'm not sure, sorry, maybe like 4 or 5 years. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure. Maybe, doing some more research, would give you the answer for that one. But they don't really explain that much, right? For them, well, all the characters are back, all the, stuff has happened, and we're just kind of thrown into it. So, but in saying that, they did a really good job in kind of introducing us to this new world now in 1977. So, yeah, for sure. So I did review the entirety of Season 1 on the channel. So if you're watching that or something and you're catching up, go check out those reviews. Excuse me. So this one will be, of course, I'm going to go through a little bit of a recap, although there wasn't a lot of stuff that happened in this episode. It was more just kind of showing us this world and kind of throwing us into this new setting, and so I'll go over a little bit of a recap here, and then get to my rating and favorite character for this episode, and then along with some more overall thoughts of just what I think the season is going to be like and everything like that. So so stay tuned for week-to-week reviews I'm going to try. So this on Sunday night, so hopefully Monday or Tuesday I will have reviews out for this one every week. And I believe they're doing 9 episodes this season, or maybe 10. I think so, but they did 8 last season, of course. And I know they're doing more than 8, but I'm not sure if it's 9 or 10. So we'll have to see. But anyways, more episodes is most of the time is better. And so we'll have to see. But anyways, let's get into the recap here, and yeah, let's jump right into it. So now we have 1977. So of course, like I said, time skip, right? And if you didn't know that going in, I do think that they did a pretty good job in kind of making that obvious right from the get-go, which was good, right? If you were didn't know and you just tuned in, you were confused. Then that's that. And they also, I will say, this wasn't part of this episode, but they did do a really good job in saying on, previously on The Deuce and showing the entirety, the events of Season 1. They did a really good job with that. They took their time. I believe it was like 2 to 3 minutes, a previously segment or something like that. And that was really helpful for me because I haven't seen Season 1 since, a year ago, right? And so for that reason, it was really great to see the previously on and just kind of, oh yeah, that happened. Oh yeah, that's who that is, right? And just, piece things together a little bit and get you ready for this season. So yeah, that was really good. But anyways, so we start off the episode here, and Candy or Eileen, whatever you want to call her. I just call her Candy. I think it's just easier. But anyways, so she goes to a party at this loft. It looks like kind of like a secret, exclusive kind of club or a bar, right? And of course it's ran by Vincent, right? And so yeah, it's from the street view, it doesn't look like much, right? But then you get up there and it's actually like a pretty big party and a huge atmosphere there, and a pretty big place too. So anyways, so she goes in there, she starts dancing with the music a little bit. She runs into Lori and Cece sitting there at the bar. And so we know, this is kind of a frequent place. This is a popular place. There's a lot of people in there, and good to see Lori and Cece back again. So that was good. And I did like the way, like, they kind of introduced all these characters in stages, right? So first we got Candy, obviously. Then we got Lori and Cece, you know. And so it just built and built and built after that. And then by the end of the episode, we get all the characters and we see what they're all up to. So that was really good. Anyway, so then she meets up with Vincent at the bar. He's got the long hair now. He's got a little bit of a, I don't know if it's a mullet, but no, not quite a mullet, but he, you know, long hair at the back compared to what he was in season 1. So he grew his hair out, and this was just one of the many changes to all the characters. Though some of them did look the same. I mean, Cece looked pretty much the same. Larry looked pretty much the same. Rodney looked the same. I'm just trying to think. I mean, you know, they just like small changes. Abby, you know, had longer hair and all that stuff. So, just, you know, few changes. The biggest change by far was to Harvey. I forget the guy who is playing him. I think, is it Paul? No, I forget. But anyways, that the change to Harvey, like the man lost like, you know, 100 pounds. Like he looks totally different. So I'm not sure if that was like for the role specifically, or that was just kind of him in real life and they kind of accommodated that into the story. I don't know. That's a lot for a TV role to be that committed and losing that much weight. So I'm not really sure. I don't know. Did he gain it for season 1? I don't know. But anyways, that was a huge change. I just wanted to acknowledge that. And so yeah, so we meet the main players here when she goes to the bar, right? And then we also see Frankie in this scene as well. He's got a little bit of a new slicked up hair, right? And that's about it. He's up to his same antics. So then we get a new intro. Again, doesn't mean much, but I thought it was pretty cool. We got a new song for this season, This Year's Girl. And so this actually came out in 1978. I think so. It's interesting, you know, they're playing that as the intro for the time period, so that, you know, it's really great. So yeah, new intro. Some of the little like sequences in there are the same, but they've added some new ones, so that's always good. You know, revamping the kind of look of things right in this season. So then we see that Vincent is still with Abby. This surprised me a little bit, to be honest. I didn't think that they, especially if, you know, as much as 4 years have passed, I didn't know if those two would still be together. That would be one of the couples where I would say, or the people I would say, you know, I don't know if they'll still be together. So anyways, but they are. So they're living together, it looks like, in an apartment. And I'm not sure, like, obviously they're still girlfriend and boyfriend. They're not married or anything like that, but they seem to get along pretty well. And that's a really interesting relationship within the show, though, as well, because Abby is pretty much like the complete opposite of Vincent, right? In her music interest, you know, she's smart, she's, you know, into books and school and everything, and Vincent is, you know, not into any of that. Not saying that he's not smart. I think he is smart, just not in the same way as Abby at all, right? You know, he's kind of a businessman kind of thing, right? And he runs a bar. So, you know, definitely different, you know, different attitudes for both of them, and different traits, but they seem to you know, get along very well. So anyway, so they're still living together. Then we see that Candy is making movies with Harvey still, right? And she's, you know, even in charge of editing, right? So her role has really improved. So she's kind of, you know, climbed the stairs a little bit in that organization. She's still under Harvey, but she's almost, you know, getting to the point where she's kind of on the same level as him, I think. And so yeah, and even though like that change with Harvey, like I honestly thought it was a different character. I paused the episode and I like had to check, different actor. I had to check if it was like a different actor. It's the same guy. He lost that much weight, so it's crazy. But anyways, and they do have a little bit of an exchange there where he says like, "Oh, I'm losing all this weight, whatever." So that was good that they acknowledged it at least. But anyways, and so also Vincent comments on this a little bit earlier, and he says, you know, you're a director, producer, and star, right, in these movies, and so that's, you know, and I think he calls it the triple threat, right, and so that was, you know, pretty interesting, and like she embraces that, although she does say in the episode a little bit later that actually, you know, having the sex and being the star is probably one of the most boring things about the job. So she actually likes the directing and producing part a lot more. Though she's still, you know, going to be acting in the movies. So, definitely interesting, and we'll have to see where her story goes this season. Obviously, she had a pretty big arc in season one, so we'll have to see where she goes in this one. But yeah, that's kind of where we pick up in her situation. Then we see Darlene and Lori, right, and we see some of the other girls. I think we got a couple new girls in this one. I didn't get their names, but I'm sure we'll learn some of them as we go in this season. And we did see a couple of returning girls as well outside of Darlene and Lori. But they're pretty much still under the pimps. Nothing has really changed in that situation, which I thought it might. I honestly thought, like, season 2, time skip, I thought some things would change, but it doesn't look like it. So it looks like Cece, Larry, and Rodney, kind of our three main players here, are still in charge, and they still hold that same power over these girls, though Lori is kind of separating herself from these other girls, and because the industry has changed so much, right? At season 1, everyone was out on the street, right? And now it's, it turned into an emporiums. You have that thing that what Bobby's in charge of, and then you have the clubs, then you have the movies. So there's just been a lot of avenues that have developed now between the seasons. So Lori is kind of separating herself from the other girls, and she's emerging as this movie star, right? And so she's actually acting in a bunch of Candy's movies, or performing, whatever we want to say, but. Anyways, and so she's kind of making a name for herself, and she's getting famous, and we see in this episode that Cece is really capitalizing on that newfound fame of Lori, even maybe too much, right? So, anyways, and then we also see that there's a new pimp who... I didn't get his name either, but, he was just kind of funny. He was kind of, him and Cece were kind of going at each other a little bit, and talking. So, I don't know. He says he has, like, 3 girls that he's in charge of. I'm not sure how much of a part he's going to play in this season, but it's, he was one of the new characters in this episode for sure. But yeah, so Cece, Larry, and Rodney are still kind of the 3 main players in that pimp game, in the story. So then we see Charles Alston. So this was pretty cool. So he maybe went through the biggest change actually, as he's been promoted to a detective. So he's now a homicide detective for the department, which is a pretty big step up from just being a normal police officer. And it definitely shows. I mean, I think he definitely deserved it. He wasn't like all the other guys. He was a little bit kind of better in terms of morality and just kind of, intelligence. Like, he was just kind of, ahead of the game a little bit. And so, yeah, it was great to see him, and he actually goes and investigates, it is a homicide, but they're not sure who did it or who is responsible or anything like that. Of course, they don't have DNA at this point. And so, yeah, so he's kind of investigating. We just saw him talk to, like, the hotel owner. Nothing much else happened, so we'll see where that goes. But yeah, that was really cool to see him in this episode. And the newspaper girl is gone. So... apparent, and he has a new girlfriend, I guess, who he picked up at the hospital there, who looks like she's like a nurse, I think. And so it looks like newspaper girl and him didn't really work out. I forget her name, but anyway, so interesting. I wonder if we'll ever see her again. Maybe not. I don't know. She may have just got kind of lost in the time skip, but anyways, yeah, it was really cool to see Alston again. And Lawrence Gilliard Jr., great job as always. He did a great job in season 1 too. So then we see Abby. She's in charge of the bar now, of course, under Vincent. And we see in this episode, too, they're developing. Vincent is kind of like in charge of a bunch of these spots. So he's in charge of Abby's bar, the Hi-Hat, which he used to be in charge of. Now he has his own, right? So that's 2. Then he's in charge of, what is his name? Chris Coy. Chris Coy's character. I don't remember his name right now. But anyway, so the gay bar, right? So he's in charge of that. That's under him. That Emporium place where they, kind of go into those booths, right? That place. So that's under him. And then they got the place that Bobby owns. So that's under him. So like he's at least got 5 or 6 locations now that he's kind of in charge of. Well, with the mob, of course, those mob guys, but he's kind of in charge of, and he's responsible for collecting all the money and giving it to the mob guys, and they kind of own everything. So it's a interesting partnership, and we see that how far it's developed now in this episode. So but yeah, Abby's in charge now, and so that's good for her. Although I really felt like season one, they were kind of building on her being kind of better than that, right? And like that she wanted to go back to school and do this and that. And I don't know. I just don't think she had the drive, I guess, and maybe that's why she ended up deciding to take over the bar. Maybe, maybe. But anyways, so yeah, she's in charge of the bar. And we do see her kind of, enjoying that, kind of embracing that. She gets that punk rock band or whatever. So she can kind of make her own choices now, which is nice for her because she didn't have that before in season one when we saw her, right? So we get this whole storyline. This was pretty much like the whole story of this episode, which was Frankie who stole money from from the Emporium place, right? And so he just steals it like, well, I guess not really technically stealing it because I think he's in charge of that place, I think. But still, like, he's taking the money and using it for himself instead of, the business. And so anyways, so he takes the money at the very beginning of the episode, and then throughout the whole episode, Vincent looks to track him down and find out why he took it, right? But in the process of this, when he's trying to track him down, we do run into our familiar characters, right? So they did a good job of integrating that within this kind of story of the episode, and that gave, further opportunities so that Vincent could meet these characters and that we could see their new kind of setups, right, for this season. So that was good. But then at the very end of the episode, well, not the very end, but close to the end, Frankie finally shows up at Vincent's bar there, the loft place, with his new girlfriend, or he says soon-to-be wife, I guess. I guess they're like fiancés. Or sorry, yeah, I guess. Like, I think he proposed to her because she has that ring, right? So, yeah, I'm not really sure. Honestly, but Vincent's not sure either, right? He's surprised. And so he asks Frankie, he's like, where did the money go? What did you do with it? And I think we hear that's $10,000 that he took. That's, that's quite a lot. So he asks Frankie, and Frankie shows him the girl's ring. And Vincent just can't believe it. He's like, really? Like, you spent all that money on this ring for this girl, that, well, at least he thinks that he barely knows, right? So, anyways, so just, classic Frankie move, right? So Vincent, ends up forgiving it with a little bit of pressure from Abby. She's kind of pressuring him to do it, which I didn't understand. Like, why is she trying to help out Frankie in this situation? Like, why is she telling Vincent to help out Frankie? I didn't really understand that drive there. Because I don't think we ever saw a relationship with Frankie and her in last season. So I don't know. Maybe with the time skip, stuff has happened. Maybe. But I just didn't understand that. So anyways, she kind of pressures Vincent into forgiving Frankie. And, Vincent says it's on him, right? I'll pay for it. It's fine. You be happy pretty much. And then Frankie leaves. And then I did like this line, though, where Vincent said to Abby, everyone loves a sucker, right? And so he recognizes that's him right now in this situation. And we'll have to see how far that plays, because we have seen a lot of those qualities of Vincent in season one and now in this episode of him kind of being the sucker, right? Especially towards his, with his brother. And so, yeah, we'll have to see where that goes. Have to see if he's kind of going to get tired of being in that role. Probably. So, yeah. Then we see this is the very end of the episode here where, so Frankie, so he walks off, and that's pretty much the end of him. I'm not sure, so I guess Vincent's just going to pay them back, right? So anyways, so then Vincent meets with the mob guys in the car. So this is Rudy and Tommy, I believe. I think so. I don't know. I may have got that wrong, but I think it's Rudy and Tommy. And then there's one other guy that's like asleep in the car or something. That was like one of the funny moments in this episode. Anyway, so Vincent tells them that they found Rudy tells them that they found something that they want him to see. And so, we're thinking, okay, here's the action, right? Like, here's something big that's going to happen. And then also Rudy does talk to Vincent a little bit about kind of embracing his situation, right? And him being, pretty well off right now, right? Pretty well off. Not as well off as Rudy, but pretty well off. And so he's kind of telling Vincent to embrace that. So, Vincent has been pretty humble, throughout what we've seen so far. And so is he going to turn in to possibly a Rudy by the end of this season? And I could definitely see that. I think they definitely could build to that and kind of switch roles here for sure. So anyways, so they bring him to the Emporium. or Tommy brings him to the Emporium there, so that they can show him. And so essentially the booths at that Emporium place, or at least the one of them, doesn't have any glass in between the room with the women and then the men, so that, you know, the men are in the booth. And so this essentially means that they can touch them up, right? So the men can actually, you know, touch the women that are in there, and that's not supposed to happen, right? Like, there's supposed to be a glass pane there, and so there's separation, right? And so you're just kind of watching, you're not touching. But I don't know why. It seems like they purposely took out one of the windows, and so that you could do that. And so Tommy calls it genius, right? So he thinks it's really smart because it makes them a lot more money if the guys can go in there and actually, you know, touch them, instead of, you know, paying for someone on the street or something like that, which costs a lot more money, right? And so Tommy thinks it's genius because it's illegal, right? Because they're not supposed to do that. They're at the Emporium. They're not supposed to be able to touch and everything like that. But no one's going to find out because everyone thinks that there's glass there, right? So it's kind of a little bit of a secret here, and I don't know how Vincent doesn't know about it. I'm sure that Frankie maybe knows about it or something, but it seems like, so, you know, someone knows something, right? And they're kind of getting away with it. So anyways, that was just a little thing. I don't know if that'll ever come back. I don't know. I don't know. I'm really not sure. But anyways, that was just a point of the episode. And then we get the little end sequence in the very last minutes here, between Vincent and Abby, and then Candy's film that she's watching. So I really like this. The sequence was kind of parallel to each other, right? Showing the real experience that Vincent and Abby are having, you know, at their apartment in the bed, and then also the fake experience that Candy is watching on the screen. And it's kind of showing it, you know, one here, you know, one here, you know, going back and forth between the two. And I did really like that kind of parallel that they're showing there between the fake and the real. So, yeah, interesting. And again, this really just shows that Candy, you know, is getting the hang of this editing stuff, and she's actually getting pretty damn good at it. And so, yeah, so that was a really great end sequence there. And then we get the credits rolling. So that'll just about do it for the recap of this one. Alright, so now I get to my rating for this first episode of Season 2. I'm going to give it a 4.7 out of 5. So obviously this was a very slow-paced episode, but if you compare this episode to a lot of the Season 1 episodes, I mean, you know, pretty comparable, right? Season 1 was not this just isn't a fast-paced show. Like, you know, so this is really, you know, a show that kind of delves into the times, right? And kind of builds that story. And it's not so much about, you know, the plot and kind of where the characters go, right? Although we did have some powerful arcs in Season 1 with, you know, Candy, Vincent, you know, so we had a couple of characters, or maybe, you know, Alston, you could say too. We had, you know, 2 or 3 characters in there that were really driving the story. But other than that, you just kind of had, you know, a bunch of different situations kind of pieced together within this kind of one world of New York, or New York City. So, you know, so this is, you know, that's not really this show, right? It is a slow-paced show, and it's going to take its time. And this was a very slow-paced episode. You know, basically the height of the action was Vincent trying to track down Frankie, which basically he doesn't, you know, succeed at. I mean, Frankie just shows up at his bar. So anyway, so that was about the extent of the action in this one, but still a very enjoyable episode, in my opinion. So did a good job of introducing us back to these characters, right? Explaining where they are now. They didn't really explain that well of what kind of happened in between times, but I don't think they're going to focus on that, right? Like, I think we're just supposed to assume, okay, years have passed, we're now here, this is the world, right? And so I don't think they're going to tell us what happened in between that time, because they really didn't explain anything in between this one. So we're just kind of, I think, supposed to imagine what kind of happened, or, you know, think, okay, well, they skipped this time. Well, there's probably a reason why they skipped that time, right? Because nothing really happened, nothing really changed. So, you know, there's a couple ways to looking at that, but it was a really good job of kind of showing us, you know, okay, this is, you know, we're in 1977 now, and this is where we start this story, right, and this season. So that was really well done. I did expect, though, tuning into this episode, I did expect a new character, or new characters, which we got a couple, like I said, the new Pimp, it looks like. Again, I don't know how big of a character he is, though, right? And so we got him, and I believe we got, well, the one guy that was part of Rudy and Tommy, the guy in the car. But honestly, you know, there wasn't really any. Oh, and what was her name? Damn. But anyways, the girl at the Emporium, who I guess was kind of second in line to Frankie, or I guess she was kind of like the manager, and Frankie was kind of a little bit over her. I forget her name now. But anyways, and so she was a new character, I guess. So yeah, so we had like 3 or 4 kind of characters that were significant in this episode a little bit. But I was expecting to see, maybe a new pimp that was kind of ahead of the game, or something like that, or someone in Vincent's life now. So I don't know. I don't know. I was just expecting a new character, and maybe we will. I mean, this is only episode 1. There's, at least 8 episodes to go, if not 9. And so, I'm sure we'll get introduced to some new characters. But it would be nice. It would be nice to see some new faces, and kind of get some new stories. Because in season 1, we did lose a couple, right? We lost Ruby. We lost, I forget her name, but the blonde who kind of went off and got out of that life. So she went off. We lost her. And so a couple of characters there we left from season 1, and a newspaper girl as well, with Alston. So it's time to, put some new characters in this season. So I'll be looking forward to that. And yeah, just great to see this show back. It really is. It's been a year. It hasn't really seemed like it, to me at least. But yeah, so no, I'm really glad that it's back. Really enjoyable. The way that they capture the times, of course, the period, it's just insane. I mean, I think that's the main thing that you can appreciate with this show. Even if you don't like the characters, you don't like the story that's really going on, just the way that they're able to capture that kind of setting and that environment, that atmosphere, is just enough to blow you away, and enough to make you tune in, to future episodes. So, anyways, David Simon and George Pelicanos, I think that's how you pronounce it. Really great job as always, really. And this was a great episode too. Like, I mean, you got to think, like, time did pass between these seasons in filming, so they got to do this all over again for each season, and kind of, get all those sets ready and all that stuff, and all the outfits and everything. So a lot of stuff would have gone into this, and, really have to recognize that. So, yeah, so really great to see this show back. Favorite character of this one, I'm going to go with Vincent, right? Vincent Martino. He kind of had the main focus in this one. I would say Candy and him kind of splitting screen time here. But of course, James Franco. And there were rumors that James Franco wasn't going to be returning because of some, I guess, allegations and drama going on with him. But David Simon stood by him and said, no, he's our star in the show. I think he said, nothing like that has ever happened on our set or something like that. And I'm good friends with James, and that's not how he is. And so we kept them, right? And but we did see as well in the teasers that they released, we didn't see much of James Franco. And so some people were saying, oh, well, he's not going to have a big part now in this season, because of this drama. So it looks like that's all lies. It really does. It looks like he's perfectly, into his role, and he's going to be in the whole season. So, take that as you may, whatever you want to think about that. But yeah, so I don't know. I think it's, obviously it's just nice to see that character again outside of all that other stuff, with James Franco as a actor, as a person. It's nice to see the character again in the show, that we can all agree on. But anyways, so Vincent, I think a lot of stuff is in store for him this season. And like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the arc they take with him this season, and taking him from that humble guy to kind of more like Rudy, and kind of, driving a fancy car and a suit, right? Not scared of a lot of people, right? Kind of maybe, maybe even kind of a rough and tough guy, dishing out punishment to people. And so that, that could definitely happen. I could see that. So anyways, we'll have to see though. I could be totally wrong. I don't know. But just, putting out predictions. But anyways, guys, that'll just about do it for my review of the Deuce, season 2, premiere episode here, episode 1. And like I said, should be making weekly reviews for this show, so please stay tuned. Every week, and I will be back with a review. So, anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching this one. Again, season 1 reviews are up on the channel, so if you're interested in those, maybe even just the finale, I did do an in-depth review for the finale, a little bit of recap discussion stuff. So you want to check that one out, you can, for sure. It's also in the playlist of the channel too. But anyways, guys, again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for the support on the channel. I do really, really appreciate it. Honestly, we've been growing really fast lately. I think we're at 175 subscribers now. Just in the last couple of days, gained a lot. So I do really appreciate that, for sure. But anyways, we'll see you next week for The Deuce, Season 2, Episode 2. See a picture in